Game on, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in to the Box Score Media Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Keaton. It is Monday, February 24th, 2020. Fantastic weekend of sports. From fighting to basketball to football. A little bit of baseball is now starting, but this weekend was just absolutely unbelievable. Tremendous time to just sit back on the TV, get the TV going, get the tablets going, get the phone going. Three games at once, and then of course, what we're going to start off with Saturday night, Fury versus Wilder 2. I was shocked, to say the least. I had Fury winning it by decision, bet $1 on it, but I had no idea that he was going to be as aggressive as he was. Had zero idea that Wilder would be so hesitant, especially with his jab. Wilder seemed to, a lot of people thought, and I thought, that he would be trying to look for that one punch, his right hand, the eraser they call it, but I didn't even think he was trying to look for the right hand. I think he was just trying, I thought he could outbox Fury, and then when he realized he couldn't, he was just trying to survive. Fury was constantly coming forward, utilizing the jab, utilizing his size difference. That was pretty obvious. He kept clinching, kept laying on him, trying to get Wilder in a headlock, basically to take his energy out. Wilder slipped a couple times. Fury had a knockdown in the third round. That, by the way, that shot against the ear, I'm perfectly fine with that. In the moment, and it's easy to sit there and say, well, it was behind the ear, it was an illegal shot. But in the end, Wilder ducked his head down and Fury was trying to go for it. It's not like Fury purposely tried to go for the back of the head. If it's an accidental blow, who cares if it's illegal or not? He wasn't trying to turn away. Wilder simply dropped his head. Fury connected right above the ear and dropped him, and it was kind of borderline illegal. But how, as a ref, I think the ref did a great job. How are you possibly going to call that, though? In the moment of battle. So, tremendous performance by Fury. Outlanded Wilder 82-34. Total punches thrown was 267 to 141, 31% to 24%, and I think Fury left a lot of punches on the table. I thought he could have utilized the jab a little more. He could have went to the body a little more, because by the time the fourth, fifth round came along, Wilder was simply covering up most of the time. And Fury, I thought if he was a little more aggressive, because I didn't think Wilder was trying anything. He was not trying to load up that right hand. He was trying to jab when it wasn't necessary. He really didn't have any great head movement. And, Fury, I think he could have knocked him out earlier than he did. It was a 7th round TKO. Wilder's corner threw in the towel, but I thought he could have done it in the 4th or 5th. But he boxed a great fight and did necessary. The jabs were 107 to 86, and I thought Fury left. Like I said, I thought he could have utilized the jab a little more. He didn't have to go for broke, but he could have. I thought he could have laid a few more bombs on him to really get him busted up. Power shots were 160 to 55. Power shots landed, that was 58 to 18 in favor of Fury. He was just an unbelievable force. Knew exactly what he needed to do. Knew he was the better boxer, and he took him out early. I thought the first 2 rounds might have gone to Wilder. I think Fury actually ended up getting them, but I thought those first 2 rounds Wilder looked pretty damn good. But I think he was expecting to take him out early, knowing that he needed to take him out early. And once Fury started landing the jab, especially to the midsection, he landed some really good body shots, and I think Wilder was just gassed and said, damn, I'm not going to be able to take this guy out. He's just not giving me the opportunity. So I'm going to be in survival mode. And he was on survival mode from the third round on till finally he got cornered in the seventh, and a couple of shots here and there. And then the corner was just like a really good body shot, right hand. And from then on, it was all she wrote. They threw in the towel, and it was a good thing because he would have got his ass knocked out. So it was a great win for him. Exciting fight. Moving forward, I think it's an Anthony Joshua fight next. I understand once you draw and win, because this was a dominating performance. Make no mistake about it. This wasn't, okay, both guys. I mean, Fury flat out, like I said, there's a couple rounds I think he took off. And he could have taken him out earlier. He was the aggressor throughout every single round. Wilder was in trouble from the third round on. He was just gassed. He was busted up from his nose to his lips to his ear. He was just done. And then add insult to injury, Fury laying on him, licking his blood, just wearing Wilder out. Wilder slipped a couple times, and he, 231 pounds, trying to get back up is just a hard thing to do. He was just gassed. He was out. He was outmatched in this one. So, great job by Fury. He's the best heavyweight in the world. I'd like to see him fight Anthony Joshua next. Add some more names to the resume. Why not? You're undefeated as a heavyweight. Keep it going. Everybody's going to say that Muhammad Ali can't get touched, but, you never know. So fight Joshua next. Forget about the trilogy. It might happen, but Wilder needs to prove himself. He's going to have to really look strong in the next couple fights in order to rematch, because honestly, I think it was so one-sided that it wasn't even, he shouldn't have been in the same ring as him, as far as I'm concerned. So that was a great fight on Saturday night. Also a great fight was UFC Fight Night, Felder versus Dan the Hangman Hooker. This was another one. I mean, just Paul Felder is one of those guys. When he shows up on a UFC fight, he brings it, and he doesn't like to go to the ground. But Hooker had a fantastic strategy into this fight. It was stick and move to the left, keep circling, stick to the left. He really utilized his jab. I thought the fight could have been over in the second round because the right side of Felder's face was starting to swell on the top and bottom. His eye almost swelled shut at the end of the first round, and I thought the doctor would have came in and possibly stopped it, but they looked at it. He kept it. He made the adjustments, did Felder, to keep Hooker from landing on that spot. Back and forth, all the way to the fifth round, and then with a minute left in the fifth round, both guys bloodied up. Cheeks starting to swell. Hooker does exactly what a great fighter does. It's you want to win the decision, you go for the takedown. About a minute, 56 seconds left. He goes for the takedown, gets him down, holds control for the rest of the round, lands a couple good shots. They go to the decision. It's a split decision victory for Dan Hooker. I think it was 48-47, 48-47, and 48-47. Going into it, it was 2-2, and then Hooker just got that last takedown to seal it. I thought it was the right decision. So, fantastic performance. Also on the main card, Jimmy Crute submission victory over Michael Oleksnik. Carolina Kozłowczyk, or however you say her name, Carolina. She's familiar as a flyweight, or excuse me, as a strawweight. She got dominated though. She's been on like a 3 or 4 fight losing streak. She was 14th ranked in the strawweight division. She's going to be bounced out. I think the time is just about done for her. Her now has 6 losses. She's a pretty girl. When you're a pretty girl and you've got notoriety, there's other things you can do. I think she needs to just get out of fighting. But who knows what she will do. But she lost 30-26, unanimous decision. Marcos Rogerio de Lima with a huge victory in the heavyweight division, KO, TKO. Brad Riddell against Muhammad Mustafaev. This was a good fight. It was a grappler versus a puncher. In the end, it was in Auckland, New Zealand. In New Zealand, they're always going to favor the hometown boys. Brad Riddell won by split decision. And then Zabira Tukugov, TKO victory over Kevin Aguilar. Just tremendous performance with 3 minutes 20 seconds in the first round. So it was a very good card up and down. Started off with a TKO victory. Ended with a split decision war between Felder and Hooker. And afterwards, Dan Hooker calls out Justin Gaethje, who's the human highlight reel. That should be a great top 5 matchup. Can't wait to see that one. I think Hooker could actually take him, even though Gaethje's got tremendous power at lightweight because of his strategy, because of the way that Hooker fights. He could make this very interesting. I'm looking forward to that fight. Hopefully Gaethje will sign it, because you might as well not wait around for Conor McGregor or anybody else, because it's already set in stone. Conor's going to fight the winner of the Khabib-Tony fight for the lightweight title, and then if Tony does fight Khabib and beats him, and then Conor fights Tony and beats him, then it'll be Conor Khabib no matter what. So the fix is in on that. But it was a great night of fights. Just a fantastic night of fights. We also had the XFL Week 3. A couple of surprises here. The DC Defenders traveled to the LA Wildcats, and the Wildcats beat them 39-9. This was definitely a shocker, considering how well the DC Defenders looked in the first 2 games. Cordell Jones was lights out the first 2 weeks, but then all of a sudden lays an egg. When you got a team from the East Coast traveling to the West Coast, it happens. So the Wildcats, very good victory there. The Battlehawks took out the Guardians, another shocker. The Guardians, after week 1, you thought they might have been the second best team, but they lay a goose egg week 2, and then they get beat 29-9 in St. Louis. And St. Louis, my God, they had, I'd say probably, I think it was the old St. Louis where the Rams used to play, and they had that stadium half full. I mean, it was pretty impressive to see how many fans showed up. There must have been 20,000, 30,000 fans. They don't have a football team anymore, but, a professional team. This is the first professional game they've had in over 1,000 days. And they showed up, and Battlehawks won at 29-9. So it was great performance. Trick play on a reverse kickoff. On a trick play reverse on the kickoff for a touchdown. Great performance. The Renegades take out the Dragons 24-12. In the game that I personally watched all the way through, the Roughnecks versus the Vipers. That's Houston versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, they're a great team, but they just don't know how to finish. 34-27. Houston was leading. Tampa Bay got the ball, first and goal from the 2-yard line, could not punch it in. Ended up being their downfall, not finishing. So the Roughnecks now are they 3-0 on the season, the only undefeated team. Next week you got the Wildcats taking on the Guardians, both 1-2. The Dragons taking on the Battlehawks. God, that's such a bad name for a team. Then you got the Roughnecks taking on the Renegades. That's a 3-0 versus 2-1 Dallas versus Houston game, so that'll be a good one. And you got the Defenders taking on the Vipers. I think the Defenders, I'll call it now, they're going to bounce back. Even though Tampa Bay's at home, I think the Defenders bounce back because I think they're still probably the best team in the league. So it was another great performance in the XFL. They're doing things right. I'm still not a fan of the sideline reporting right after a game, right after a play. You turn over, you go right to the quarterback, the head coach. Close the mics up. We don't need to know exactly what the coach is going to do. We don't need to know that the replay officials are going to call it confirmed or stands or whatever right before the referees do it. We don't need to know that chatter. If you want to interview the coach every now and then, or talk to one of the players every now and then, okay. But don't mic up the officials all the time, and especially don't mic up the replay booth. Come on, we don't need to know that. It takes the suspense out of the calls. So, Other than that, the XFL is doing everything right. And then college basketball, wow, upsets galore this weekend. Saturday game that I watched, number one Baylor versus number 3 Kansas. Tremendous game, back and forth. Azubuike, 23 points, 19 rebounds to lead Kansas to a 64-61 victory. I knew this one would be close. I thought Baylor was able to pull it out, but Kansas got the revenge they wanted. Baylor just couldn't close late. Great. Every time that Baylor would get close, Kansas averaged probably a 7-8 point lead in the second half, and every time they got close, Kansas had the answer for them. That's what great teams do. Number 13 Auburn took out Tennessee 73-66. They had to come back in that one. Providence upsets Marquette 84-72. Number 5 Dayton, go Flyers. They beat Duquesne 80-70. TCU upsets West Virginia 67-60 in overtime. Memphis over Houston, another upset. Villanova takes out Xavier. Florida State survives NC State 67-61. I actually had NC State in the upset there. I was wrong, but it was still a close game. Louisville over North Carolina 72-55. UCLA upsets Colorado 70-63. Kentucky over Florida. San Diego State gets their first loss of the season. They get upset by UNLV 66-63 at home. Duke over Virginia Tech. Oregon over Arizona 73-72 in overtime. And the upset that I did call, BYU over Gonzaga 91-78. I had a feeling number 2 going on the road against BYU was going to be a struggle for them, and it was. They just could not stop them. 91 points given up is a huge amount for a team that's looking for a number 1 seed, so that's going to hurt them. So new rankings this week just released. 1 through 5, you got Kansas, Baylor, Gonzaga, Dayton, and San Diego State. The Flyers are up to number 4. Unbelievable. I think they are a Sweet 16 team at least. Final Four, I don't know just yet. We'll have to wait and see. But I think they are at least a Sweet 16. I'm not a UD fan. I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I would like to see the Flyers being from the Dayton area. I would like them to make it far, but I do not want to see them get a 1 seed. And I don't think they will, but I do not want to see them get a 1 seed. I would love to see them get a 2 seed. 1 seed would be too much pressure for them to handle when they get bounced out in the second round. So 6 through 10, Florida State, Duke, Kentucky, Maryland, and Creighton. Creighton moving up 5 spots. That's a big jump. 11 through 16, you got Louisville, Villanova, Seton Hall, Oregon, Auburn, and Penn State. Followed by BYU, Iowa, Michigan, and West Virginia. 21 through 25, you got Colorado, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Michigan State, and Houston rounding out the top 25. So, women's scores for this weekend. We'll go with games on Sunday. Villanova upsets DePaul. Number 1 South Carolina beats Kentucky 67-58. Louisville over Pittsburgh. Big. Alabama upsets number 9 Mississippi State. Colorado upsets Arizona 50-38. Utah upsets Arizona State. Washington, Missouri State, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech winners. Florida over Arkansas, and then Oregon State defeats California 76-63. A lot of upsets there on the women's side. Women's rankings updated today. South Carolina, Baylor, Oregon, Stanford, and Louisville, followed by Connecticut, Maryland, NC State, UCLA, and Mississippi State. It's crazy to see Connecticut women's team outside the top 5. They're a 1-2 team every single year, but, maybe people are starting to catch up to Gino Auriemma. 11 through 15, you got Gonzaga, Texas A&M, Arizona, Northwestern, Kentucky, followed by DePaul, Oregon State, Iowa, Florida State, and South Dakota. And then 21 through 25, Missouri State, Indiana, Princeton, Arizona State, and TCU. I don't know how you don't pick South Carolina to win it all for the women's. Consistently good. consistently on top of their game, playing in the SEC, and the SEC is pretty damn good this year. So I'll take South Carolina women's team to win it all. Okay, NBA scores for this weekend. Let's go with Sunday's games. The big one, the Lakers taking on the Celtics. I knew this would be a close one. My prediction came true. I didn't think LeBron would hit the clutch shot, but he did. Lakers beat the Celtics 114 to 112. Nuggets over the Timberwolves 128-116. Raptors huge over the Pacers 127-81. I thought that would be a close game. It was not. Bulls over the Wizards 126-117. Thunder over the Spurs huge 131 to 103. Pelicans over the Warriors, and the Trailblazers beat the Pistons 107 to 104. And as far as games tonight to watch, we got a couple of good ones in the NBA. Jazz taking on the Suns. Utah 8-point favorite. They got a rebound after a loss to the Rockets. I think they win big tonight. 76ers taking on the Hawks. I like the 76ers in that one, but I like Trae Young always to have a great game. Bucks taking on the Wizards. Bucks traveling to Washington. This could be an interesting one. I actually like the Wizards to upset them. Nets taking on the Magic. This is an interesting one because both teams are teetering around the 8th seed in the East, but I like the Nets at home. In the late game, the Clippers taking on the Grizzlies. I like the Clippers to cover the spread, to beat the spread. 10-point favorite. I like them to win by like 20. They're going to win big tonight. Number 6, Florida State versus number 11, Louisville. That should be a good one. Texas against West Virginia. And number 1, Kansas against Oklahoma State. Kansas 14.5-point favorite. They win big tonight. Women's game, late game tonight. You got number 3, Oregon versus number 4, Stanford. Should be a good one. I like Stanford at home. NHL. You got the Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the Senators. Should be a good one. I like the Blue Jackets. MLB spring training is up and running, and that is about it. I'm pretty much done. I am tapped out. A lot of information, a lot of great sports this weekend. It was a hell of a weekend to watch it. This week, got some NBA, college basketball, and next weekend, I think you got UFC Fight Night, Benavidez versus Swanson or whoever he's fighting. So, looking forward to that. About to hit March Madness pretty soon. So, you got to be looking for these bubble teams looking to, make some statements. NC State made their statement against Duke. Providence made their statement against Memphis, wherever they played, so they're doing pretty well. A lot of bubble teams. Can Notre Dame possibly get in? I don't think so. They're 17-10 after their win against Miami. We'll see what the Irish can do. But the problem with them is they do not have a quality win against the top 25, so that could hold them back. But so look out for these bubble games. These bubble teams looking to try to get into the tournament. So should be very interesting next couple weeks. And that does it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in to Box Score Radio. I'm your host, Jake Keaton. I will have another show up on Friday, posted, giving all the predictions for the scores this week, NBA games, college basketball. We'll cover some hockey, and predictions for UFC Fight Night. All right? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for listening. Get on YouTube, listen to the show, tell your friends, like, subscribe. And try to get this ball rolling for me, okay? Thanks a lot. I will catch you on Friday, players. Have a great week.